Hello and welcome to Math 0242 and Math 1342. I'm your instructor, Scott Daugherty, and in this video I'm just going to give you a brief orientation into my lab, which is formerly known as my math lab. So when you register for my lab, you'll see there are going to be some buttons here on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to go over each of these briefly and sort of describe what they do. The first one is the course home button. That'll pull up the course calendar. You can see this is the month of January 2023. By the way, I'm making this video for all my classes in the future as well. So if you're a future class, then of course your calendar will look a little different. But nonetheless, this will serve as a template for what your class will look like. On the calendar, you'll have these different icons, and I just want to kind of talk about each of these icons are about. By the way I've designed this is there's only one MyMathLab shell, and it contains both courses. So it contains material for Math 0242 as well as the material for Math 1342. And I've tried to label those over here so you know which class you're working with when you click on a button here. Now, in Math 0242, you'll have homework and you'll have quizzes. In Math 1342, you'll have some homework, but then you'll have some tests. So just be aware of that when I go through these icons. This icon indicates that there's an announcement that's been made on, in this case, January 16th for this particular class. You can click on it to read what the announcement says. But I also send, every time I send an announcement out, I also send it to the email address that you put into my math lab. So you can also check your email for the announcements. Now, the circle is a due date for a homework assignment. And again, you'll have homework in both classes, so you'll see those listed as little circles, the due dates at least. And then the squares are due dates for the quizzes, which are only in Math 0242. You won't have any quizzes in Math 1342. Okay, and then you can scroll through different months here. This is the month of February. Then you start to see the little green diamond shape, and that's the due date for a test, which, again, we only have tests in Math 1342. So we don't have any in Math 0242. And again, you can click on it to see what that test is. That's the first test, test 1, and that's due March 1st for this particular class. Okay, so that's sort of how the calendar looks. You can click through different months here if you want. The next button is the orientation button, and I've just created an orientation document here that you can read through. I'm just going to highlight some points here, but I'll let you read through the rest of that. The first assignment that you have is to take the orientation quiz, and I'll show you how to access that in a moment. For this particular class, it's due by January 30th. If you don't take it by the particular day that it's due, in this case, January 30th for this class, but it could be different for future classes, so make sure you check it. Then you're going to be dropped from the course. Now, it's not graded, so you're not going to get a grade for it, but if you don't take it before the particular date that it's due, then you will be dropped from the class. That is a requirement from the college. It shows that you're participating in the class. So if you don't take the orientation quiz, then we assume you're not participating in the class, and so then you'll be dropped if you don't take it before the due date. So make sure you do that. Then in short, and so in this document, I've just listed the different buttons in my math lab and sort of outlined what they do. And I'll let you read through that so you can refer to it if you need to. Just a couple of things I want to mention here. I've left my cell phone number if you want to text me, and my email address here if you want to contact me through email. We will have for the stats class, we will have a calculator that you'll need to get. I would recommend getting the TI-84 calculator if you don't have one. But if you happen to have a TI-83 calculator, I wouldn't necessarily buy the TI-84. The TI-83 would be good enough for this class, for the stats part of the class. Now, there's not a calculator required for 0242, so you don't need to get this until you start getting into the statistics material in Math 1342. But once you get to 1342, you do need to get either a TI-84 or 83 calculator. Okay, the only other thing I want to mention here is about quizzes and tests. all the quizzes and tests will be taken at your home in MyMathLab without a proctor. And I'll show you how to access those in a moment, but when you go to access them, you are going to have to put in a password. And so I've got the passwords listed for the tests and quizzes here. Now remember, the quizzes are for Math 0242, and the tests are for Math 1342. And essentially, the password is the name of the particular thing you're taking. So, quiz 1, the password is quiz 1, but notice it's lowercase, okay? And then all the way up to quiz 9, the password is quiz 9, lowercase, okay? And then the same thing for the tests. When you get to Math 1342, the password for test 1 is test 1, lowercase, okay? And then I'll have a final exam for Math 1342, which is a comprehensive final. So it covers everything from the stats class. And of course, the password there is just final exam, where everything is lowercase. So if you forget what the passwords are, you can just refer to the orientation document. That's where I put them. Okay. Okay, so I'll let you read through the rest of this orientation document, but those are the two things I wanted to highlight there. The next button is the syllabus for Math 0242. And again, I'm going to let you read through most of this, but let me just mention a couple of things here. This is my office room if you want to come see me and get help face-to-face. This is my office phone number. I've got my office hours listed in the syllabus, but that can change from semester to semester, so just make sure you look at the syllabus once you get into MyMathLab, make sure you look at the syllabus there. We do have tutoring services. There's two different types of tutoring services that you can use here. We have an online tutoring service, which is known as BrainFuse. And then we also have face-to-face tutoring on the Montgomery campus, and I believe F234. I believe that's the correct room. You may want to check me on that. But I've got these links here you can click on to learn more about in-person appointments and online services. And if you need help with that, just let me know, okay? But these are the links you can look at to learn more about the tutoring services. And then there's the instructions in the syllabus for how to register for MyMathLab. So make sure you read through those. Essentially, what's going to happen is you're going to have to get an access code in order to get access to MyMathLab before you register. In order to get an access code, there's a couple of options. You can get temporary access for 2 weeks where you don't have to pay for it. And you can start using it immediately. So there's no excuse in terms of not being able to pay for it in the first 2 weeks. And what will happen is after 2 weeks, you'll lose access to MyMathLab, but all the work that you've done will still be there once you pay for it and get access again. So don't worry about using that temporary access for the first 2 weeks if you can't pay for it initially. But if you can't pay for it up front, you can also pay for it using a credit card or PayPal on their website, the MyMathLab website, or you can purchase an access code from the bookstore, and it'll give you a cardboard cutout with the access code in it, and you'll just have to enter that in when you register. So there's your couple options there in terms of getting access to MyMathLab. And then I've got technical support listed here for MyMathLab in case you run into any issues with MyMathLab. There's a link for that technical support. Now, in terms of grading, you're going to be given a grade for both classes. This is the grade evaluation for Math 0242. It's going to be 70% is going to be homework, and then 30% will be from your quizzes. Notice there are no tests in Math 024. It's just homework and quizzes, right? 70% homework and 30% quizzes. I use the 10-point scale to determine your letter grade. In terms of withdrawing from the class, the last day you can withdraw from either class is April 4th. If you withdraw from one class, then you'll be dropped from the other class as well. But the last day you can withdraw from either one is April 4th. And essentially, when you withdraw from one, you're withdrawing from both. So just be aware of that withdrawal date. If you fall more than 2 weeks behind in the on the course calendar, you can be dropped from the course because that indicates that you're not participating in the class. So just be aware of that. And again, if you're dropped from one class, then you're going to be dropped from both. Okay, so I'll let you read through the rest of this. It's got lots of good information in it. If you're looking for some information, you either look in the syllabus or the orientation. Those are the two places where I've got lots of information for the class. Okay, the next button is the Matho242 videos and crosswalks button. And what I've got under this button is all the homework assignments for Matho242. So the first homework here, I've got it broken down by the different topics in that homework. And then I've listed videos that you need to watch before you start working on that homework. So this video here is on variables for homework 1. And then after you're done watching this video, then you want to go work on the problems in homework 1 that have to do with this particular topic. And then I've also listed the textbook that you can look at to read through the material if you want to read through it. But there's several different textbooks here that I've listed. So we've got a pre-algebra textbook, and the Matho242 pre-algebra textbook you can click on here. That's only for the Matho242 class. We've got a pre-algebra textbook for Matho242, and then we have an elementary algebra textbook for Matho242. And so the way I've labeled this is the P stands for pre-algebra and the E stands for elementary algebra. And then there's also the statistics textbook, which you'll primarily be using for the stats part of the class, Math 1342, but there's a review section for, at the beginning of each chapter, there's a review section called the integrated review for the stats material. And I've listed that as R. So R indicates that it's in the stats book, but it's in the review sections of the stats book. And then the S is also the same textbook, the stats textbook, but it's not the review part of it. It's the actual statistics part. So there's 3 different textbooks here: the pre-algebra textbook, the elementary algebra textbook, and then the stats book. And the stats book is broken down into the review part and then the actual stats part. And the R stands for the review part, and the S stands for the stats part. So this here, if you want to read through it, you want to go to the R textbook, which is the review part of the stats book. And then this is the chapter, so it's chapter 1, section 3. That's the section. Then for the elementary textbook, it's E, so this one on exponents, you can find in the elementary textbook, and then this is the chapter, so it's chapter 6, and then this is the section, section 7. Or you can look in the review part of the stats book, that's what the R indicates, and that would be in chapter 1, section 6. And then later on, you can see that I've also got like the pre-algebra textbook labeled with a P, and then that's the chapter 5 and then section 1. Or again, you could look in the review section of the stats book, chapter 2, section 1. Okay, so again, the idea is for Matho242, what you're going to do is start on homework 1, watch the videos here, and then when you're done watching the videos, you can start working on the homework. And if you want to refer to any of the textbooks, I've got the topics, the location of the topics for each of the different textbooks. Okay, so let me just show you what the textbooks look like. So the pre-algebra textbook, it's basically an online textbook that I've just put a link to here. If you look on the table, click on the table of contents here, you can see that, again, like I said, it's broken down by chapter and then section. Okay, and if you scroll down, you can see the different chapters there. And that's the same way the elementary textbook looks. The elementary algebra textbook looks the same. You click on the table of contents, and it's broken down by chapter and section. Okay, the next button is the course calendar for both classes. So initially, you're going to start off working in Math 0242, and that's what these little homework assignments and quizzes are referring to. So, and these are the due dates. So homework 1 is due January 18th, and then quiz 1, which will be over homework 1, is due the next day, January 19th. And again, this is all Math 0242 material. Okay, and that's the way this is going to work. Homework 2 is due by January 20th, and then the quiz is due by the 23rd. And quiz 2 is over homework 2. And then eventually you'll get to, homework 9, and then quiz 9 will be over homework 9, and those are the due dates for both of those. And then once you get to February 13th, you'll start working on the statistics material, which is the Math 1342 class. And these are the due dates for the homeworks for the sections in the stats book. Okay, so this is section 1.1 in the stats book. The homework will be due by February 13th. Okay, so now you're working on the stats material here. And then the due date for the first test, and again, the tests are only for the stats class. The first tests must be completed by March 4th. And the way that's going to work is it's going to be, my math lab is going to say it's going to be due March 4th at 11:59 p.m. But that's going to be in Eastern time. Every time in my math lab is listed in Eastern time. So for us, which we're in Central time, that's actually going to be 10:59 p.m. So just be careful about that. All the times in my math lab are Eastern. So you want to subtract an hour off to find out what it'd be in Central time. And test 1 will be over all the material prior to it here. So it's going to be over chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so you'll just know that, look at the homework that you've done up to this point, and that'll be what the test is going to cover. You can also look at the practice test. Of course, you want to take the practice test before you take the actual test. Okay. Now, there's no due date for the practice test. The practice test is not graded. This is not really a due date, but it's just kind of a recommended date for you to sort of look at the practice test. Okay. So make sure you do that before you take the actual test. Okay, and so that's the way this is going to work. Next test will be over chapter 5 and 6, and there's sort of a recommended date for the practice test 2, and here's the due date to take test 2, March 28th. Now again, you need to look at your own course calendar if you're a class after spring 2023. And this is it's got the withdrawal date on it for this class. It's going to be April 4th, which I've already mentioned. And then the next test will be over chapter 7 and 8, and that'll be due on April 13th or by April 18th in this case. And then the last test will be over chapters 9, 10, and 11, and that'll be due by May 6th for this particular class. And then you can see the final exam, which is a comprehensive exam over all the statistics material, and that'll be due for this particular class by May 11th. Okay. Okay, so that's the course calendar. And then the next button is the syllabus for the stats class, Math 1342. It's got a lot of the same material I mentioned before, the other syllabus. But a couple things to make note of: you do have to get that access code. But there's only one access code. You don't have to get 2 access codes, right? So you need a way to access my math lab, but you only need 1 access code because the material for both classes is in one My Math Lab shell. Okay, and it'll be for this particular textbook, right? The Elementary Stats Textbook, 14th edition. And like I mentioned, this says optional materials, but actually this is required. You must have either a TI-84 calculator or maybe a TI-83 calculator would be fine. Okay. Now, this also has instructions for registering for My Math Lab. You only need to register for My Math Lab one time, right? You don't need to do it for both classes. Once you register for My Math Lab, then you'll have access to both classes. So don't think you need to register twice. You just need to register once, and once you register, you'll have access to both Math 0242 and Math 1342. Okay, now the grading for Math 1342 will be a little different. The homework will be 20% of your grade. There will be the 4 tests that I've already mentioned, and those will be worth 60% of your grade. And then the comprehensive final exam will be worth 20% of your grade. And then, again, I used a typical 10-point grading scale to get your grade. Now, notice that all exams are required, so you must take them, including the final exam. So they're mandatory. If you don't take those, then you'll fail the class automatically. So you have to take all the exams and the final. Those are all required. Okay, and of course, I've already mentioned this. The withdrawal date is the same for both classes. Last day you can withdraw for this particular class is April 4th. And then this is the official day where you have to take the orientation quiz by January 20th, or you'll be dropped from the class. Okay, so I'll let you read through the rest of that. The next button is the videos for Math 1342. So once you get to the statistics material, what you're going to do is you're going to watch videos here. I mean, these are WebEx lectures. And then you'll just go through and watch the video. Like this is chapter 1, so you'll watch this video. And then when you're done watching that video, you can start working on the homework from chapter 1. And so forth and so on. Okay, the next button is the textbook for statistics. And remember, I mentioned it had a review section and it has the actual stats section. So you can see I clicked on chapter 1. This is the integrated review part, which is for Math 0242. And you remember it's first is the chapter and the second is the section. So if you see in the crosswalk, it says 1R3, right? 1 is the chapter and 3 is the section. And R means it's the stats book, but it's the review part of the stats book. Okay. And the section 1.1, that's the actual stats class. Okay. And you can click on e-text, right, if you want to look at the textbook there. Okay, so here's taking a long time to load, so I'll let you look at that. That's how you access the stats book, okay? Okay, and then the next button is the assignments button. This will list all the different assignments for both classes, and you can see I've listed here first the 0242 material. So you can see you've got the homework, and then the quiz. And you basically do that for homework 1 and then quiz 1, homework 2, quiz 2, and so on and so forth until you get to homework 9 and quiz 9. And once you're done with all that, then you're done with Math 0242 class. And then from there, you can see that it begins the Math 1342 material, which is the stats part of the class. And this is the homework, right? Section 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And so on, so forth. And then here's where the orientation quiz is. Now this is, remember, this is the quiz that you have to take before the official day, or you'll be dropped from the class. And then after that, you can see that I've got the exams for the stats class, and also the practice exams. So let me just show you what that would look like. When you click on an exam, notice it's going to prompt you for the password, and those are in the orientation document that I talked about earlier. Likewise, when you do that, when you take a quiz up here, it's going to prompt you for the password for the quiz. And then at the very bottom here, this is where you'll access the final exam. And again, you've got the practice final as well. You want to take that before you take the actual final, as well as every time you take a test, you want to take its practice test. Now remember, the practice test and the practice finals are not graded. They're just there to help you prepare for the test or the final, whichever one you're going to take. Okay, the next button is just student gradebook button. Now the way I've designed this is the gradebook is going to be, in my math lab, is going to be set up for the stats class. So this is only going to be the stats grades, okay? The Math 0242 grades you can look at in D2L, okay? You can access them in D2L. This will be just the stats grades. And so if you see this button over here, it says calculation. If you click on it, it shows your grade broken down by homework and then tests. And then here it says quiz, and it's kind of misleading. That's actually the final exam because there's no way for me to change this to a different title. This is not the quiz from Math 0242. This grade book is only Math 1342 statistics stuff. So this is the statistics homework only. This is the stats tests only. And this is the final exam for stats, even though it says quiz. And you remember, homework is with 20 points, or 20%, or 20 points. The tests are worth 60% or 60 points. And then the final exam, which it says quiz, but it really is the final exam, is also worth 20%, so 20 points. And then it'll show you how many points you've earned out of each over here. So for example, if you have like over here it tells you your average. So if you have a 50% over here, let's say, 50% of 20 points will be 10. So you would have earned 10 points out of 20. Okay, and then when you add up all the points earned over here, this will be your total overall numerical grade for the stats class. And then you could also look at your individual homework grades and test grades down here once you start opening them up. Okay, the next is the video and resource library button. And here you can just access several things in my math lab. But there's three that are sort of going to be the ones you're going to look at the most. If you want to look at PowerPoints, you could click on this. Essentially, this is a search engine, right? You can search through various things in my math lab. So you might want to look at some of the PowerPoints. I'll show you those. There's technology videos, which will help you learn how to use the calculator, the TI-84 calculator. And then there's also section video lectures. I have my own lectures the WebEx lectures that I mentioned. So you probably want to look at those first. But if you want, you can look at the section video lectures, which are video lectures that were made by my math lab. They weren't made by me, they were made by my math lab. So if you're interested in those, you can look at those. I think those are the big three. And you can search by chapter and section if you want up here. But I'm just going to find all of them just to show you. And you can see down here, it's got all of them listed. The PowerPoints for each section. And then the section video lectures for chapter 1. There's like 4 of them. Okay. And there are no technology videos for chapter 1 here, so that's why they're not listed. But notice in chapter 2, you got the PowerPoints, you got the video lectures, and underneath it, it's got the different technology videos. And it's got different things here like Excel, StatCrunch, and StatDisk. We're not using any of those. The one you want to look at is the one we're using is the TI-83 and 84 calculator. So when we do technology and statistics, we're only using the 83 or 84 calculator. We're not using Excel or StatCrunch or StatDisk. Okay, so I'll let you sort of look through that. I mean, I pulled up everything, but if you just want to look at a particular chapter or section, you can select that up here. And there's other things here that, if you're curious, you can look at. But I think those are the big 3 things that you're going to want to pull up here, okay? And then underneath this, there's also the learning tools. I don't think there's a lot here you want to look at, but let me just mention a couple of things. There's these interactive flowcharts, which you may want to look at. They're sort of optional, but I think that's something you might want to look at. And then this is the appendix of the textbook. When you get to statistics, you may want to look at this appendix because we're going to be using tables and the various tables are in the appendix of the textbook. So that's where you'll find them here. So if you go to this part, or you can just go to the textbook and go to the appendix, okay? And you can sort of click through here. This is how you click through different pages down here. Okay. So I'll let you look at that. We're not using StatCrunch. You can ignore this. You probably wouldn't use any of these data sets. We're not going to use any of those. We're not using any of these manuals because that's for Excel and StatDisk, so don't worry about that. We're not using the workbook, so you don't need to worry about that. You have these technology videos. If you pull it up, it's going to show you all the different videos for all the different technologies that could possibly use for this class, but we're only using the TI-80 graphing calculator, TI-83 or 84 graphing calculator. So if you click on that, it shows you the calculator videos by topic. Okay, so that's a good place to access those. And then the study cards, I looked at those. Those do not have any information. These are technology study cards, but notice it does not have any study cards for the TI-83 or 84. It's only for all the other technology stuff that we're not using. Okay, so there's not a lot here. The only thing here I can really see that you might want to look at is the flow charts, maybe. And I'll pull those up real quick. I haven't pulled those up, but the flow charts, depending on what topic you're working in, when you get to statistics, you can click on it and it'll help you. Like when you get to percentiles, you can click on this and it might help you understand percentiles by showing you a flow chart. Okay, so the flow charts, the appendix will be the tables. Appendix A, you can click on that, and then these technology videos, you can click on that to get to the TI-83 and 84 videos. Okay, so that's pretty much all the buttons in my MATLAB you'll be using. You'll see the study plan button, that's optional. Accessible resources, that's optional, and then StatCrunch we're not using, so you don't need to worry about those. Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention before I end this orientation is when you look at the homework, let me go back to the assignments. There are tutorials for the homework. So let me just click on one of the homework assignments from the stats. So when you click on it, it pulls up there's 9 questions in this particular homework. And I'm just going to pull up one of the homework problems. So it's got these learning aids in it. So at the bottom, it's got help me solve this. When you click on it, what it's going to do is for this particular problem, it's going to go step by step and sort of help you work your way through the problem. And as you go on, you're going to have to enter in answers as you do this. But once you complete it, if you get everything correct, then you will have solved the particular homework problem that you're working on. Whereas view an example, it's going to pull up a similar problem, but the numbers are going to be different. And it's just going to work through the entire problem. You don't have to enter anything in. It's just going to show you how to solve that problem. Of course, they're solving a different problem because the numbers are different. Okay, so you're just going to have to then go back and actually work out your problem with the numbers here. Okay. By the way, if you get a problem wrong, you can go back and rework it until you get it right. So this particular homework assignment has 9 questions in it. And you can continue to work on question 1 over and over again until you finally get it right. and there'll be no penalty for getting it wrong like 100 times before you get it right the first time. You just have to get it right at some point, okay? And then the other button over here is Get More Help. And so you can click on this. This will send you to a MyMathLab video on this particular topic. It'll also send you to the section in the textbook. You can read about this particular problem in the textbook. And then we're not using StatCrunch, so you can ignore that. And then it also will help you with the technology part of the problem. When you click on Tech Help, it's just going to send you to the technology videos here. But again, we're only using the graphing calculator part of this. And so you click on this, and then just make sure you click on the topic that you're working on. Okay. These essentially are the calculator videos, the technology videos that you'll pull up in MyMathLab that I showed you under the search engine, okay? And then also under Get More Help, you'll have this option to click on Ask My Instructor. What that'll do is it'll send me this problem in an email, and then you could like type in a comment about, I don't understand how to do this part of the problem. And what's nice about that is I actually get the problem sent to me, and I can answer your question by looking at the problem that you've sent. If you just ask me a question about a problem without using Ask My Instructor, I will have to go and look up the problem, but my numbers will be different from your numbers. So it's really nice if you just say, Ask My Instructor, use the Ask My Instructor button. It'll send me the exact problem you're working on. And that way, when you ask me a question, I can actually look at the numbers that you're working with for that problem, okay? Okay, so I just wanted to mention that in the homework. So there's several learning aids in each in the homework problems, okay, that you can take advantage of. Okay, so I hope this orientation was helpful. If you have any questions about anything, just send me an email, and I'll help you out. And remember, the first assignment that you need to take care of is you need to take the orientation quiz before the official day. Otherwise, you'll be dropped from the class. Okay, so I hope you have a good semester. Let me know if you need any help, okay? Okay, bye-bye.